Well, it's the smallest continent in the world. There are 14 countries in total, and of course, Australia and New Zealand would be the most popular. Definitely the biggest and the most touristy, also. And then you've got Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, Tuvalu, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, Nauru, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Papua New Guinea, and Palau. My favorite country is probably Kiribati, for a number of different reasons. First of all, I find that it's up there amongst one of the most tropical. On top of that, there's a lot of the relics from the Second World War. And I also find that the island is very clean, particularly Tarawa, the capital city. And I also find that transportation is actually pretty good. And prices are reasonably okay as well. It's definitely a place that I'd like to return to in the future. Well, I'd have to say Papua New Guinea. I didn't really have a good experience there, and I kind of find that overall I just didn't really like the environment and think it's quite dangerous as well. And I feel like maybe it would be better to go back under like a tour guide or like a specialized package, because I think that maybe it's safer just to have security with along the trip. But that's just my experience. I know people that have gone there before and they've enjoyed it, but I definitely didn't. Overall, in most of the islands, I think the best thing to do is to just book accommodation a long time in advance, especially in places like Nauru and Tuvalu, because there's only like a couple of hotels and Airbnbs on the islands. So it's much better and much safer to book in advance. But overall, the likes of Fiji, Australia, and New Zealand have really good accommodation. I think the deeper you go out into the Pacific Ocean, kind of the less quality. But overall, um, I found it okay. Well, there are definitely challenges with trying to fly around because a lot of the time the flights get cancelled, sometimes very last minute, and you only have one flight a week going in and out of most of the islands. So this is problematic, and sometimes communication isn't so good. Just they won't really tell you that the flight has been cancelled, so you could be waiting an extra day or two to move on to your next destination. And this is really annoying. And I really wish that perhaps there could be better communication with some of the airlines, but I guess the problem is, like we I kind of pointed out, just there are just a lack of flights anyway. So the best thing to do is to just give yourself like an extra day or two, just because there's a strong possibility that you'll be waiting around longer than expected on some of these islands. I've got a couple of good memories. I liked my trip to Fiji because we were in a real touristy place and we got kind of a lot of the traditional dancing. That was cool because obviously there's a lot of history in Fiji in particular, and it's a really well visited place because there's a lot of links, not just from Australia but from most of the other Pacific islands. I really liked it. I liked the beaches. I just overall the whole experience was really really good. Um, Again, I'd definitely like to visit again in the future. Well, I think overall Nauru is one of the most peaceful islands. The whole environment is just very relaxing. It's very laid back. The locals are very friendly. They're always willing to help out if you need anything, if you need any help or guidance or assistance. And I have a lot of positive things to say about the island itself. And I think just overall, it's one of those places that a lot of people would want to visit because it's just perfect.
Where's our American people? Don't be bashful. I sound like an American person to be bashful. No, America was the Secretary of Colonies who said, hey, not to panic, we just send them all the way to Botany.
Well, overall, it was quite easy to get the visas. Most of the countries offered visa on arrival, or some countries they offered the e-visa. Um, Nauru was difficult. I had to wait a little bit longer than usual to get the visa. And Australia, you can apply for the e-visa, and everything else, everywhere else, was more or less visa on arrival.
There you go. Let's go.
Yeah, I'd say overall it was quite safe. I definitely didn't have anything too negative happen to me. I think most of the islands are really, really safe. I think mostly so because they're quite touristy, especially the likes of Tonga and Samoa. Um, Overall, I never felt worried at all, never really felt too threatened. I think it was okay.